lot of things can be happening in the insect world at Pink Bud, but I'm just going to focus on some of the most important ones in the interest of time, and also considering that we've been having kind of a cool and wet spring recently. And I'm going to start with dogwood borer, which, as you may be aware, is a clearwing moth, even though it looks more like a wasp, it actually is a moth. And so nearly all orchards that are planted on size-controlling rootstocks are susceptible to this pest and are likely to be attacked as they mature, especially as they begin starting to develop burnouts, which is where the eggs are laid. Over time, larval tunneling and girdling behavior causes the trees to decline, which can result in overall shortened orchard life. We have one generation of this moth per year, and the adults start to fly in mid to late June. Let's see here if I can do this. Okay. So our standard management recommendations are for a preventive trunk spray, preferably using the most effective thing that we have, which is Lorsban. The timing would be usually just after petal fall, which is before the flight gets underway. But because Lorsban has excellent residual activity, this treatment can actually be made before bloom, like now, or earlier. If we were earlier in the cycle, we've done it as early as half-inch green, or even post-harvest. It retains its effectiveness for the next season. Now, I realize that trunk sprays are not popular with growers because they're time-consuming and difficult, but I would say that using an air blast with just the bottom nozzles turned on, as some people like to try, is really not a suitable substitute because you just don't get effective coverage that way. So it's really a matter of deciding whether controlling this insect to maintain the longevity of your orchard is a high enough priority to spend the time necessary to do it right. I would mention that we're only going to have Lorsban available for this season and next season, so you might as well take advantage of it while we have it. If Lorsban is not an option for some reason, you could probably make do with a sale, but in that case, I would advise 2 applications starting in mid-June if you're using this material, since it doesn't have quite as good efficacy as Lorsban does. As a complement, especially in high pressure situations, we've been advising using mating disruption, and there's a good isomate DWB twist tie product available. And we've done extensive testing with this product, and it does reliably shut down trap catches. However, it's not necessarily recommended as a standalone tactic because some sites are not quite as suitable for using mating disruption, depending on their orchard size or shape, or proximity to populations of moths that migrate in from the woods and hedgerows. Now, this would also be a good time to assess your need for mating disruption against internal lepidopteran pests, because oriental fruit moth is just starting to fly now, and codling moth won't be far behind. Traps for these insects should already be in place. And we have a good range of products and dispensers available, including things such as isomate twin tube ties, the more recently registered sidetrack meso dispensers, which go out at lower per acre numbers, 18 to 36, which makes them a little more convenient to use, and going up to mechanical aerosol dispensers, such as the Checkmate Puffer and Isomate Mist. Also, for situations where sprayable might be most convenient, I would say that it's probably worth considering this option, particularly just for oriental fruit moth, where we have the Checkmate sprayable product available. And the corresponding codling moth sprayable product is really not as effective, so we're not really recommending people try that. Finally, overwintering oblique-banded leaf roller larvae are active now, or at least they will be as soon as we get a bit of heat starting in a few days. And for situations where you would elect to treat them, We recommend going in at mid to late bloom with a BT product such as Dipel or Agree or Javelin, etc. There are many others. And this will also give you some help against Oriental fruit moth. The suggested action threshold is 3% of clusters infested with larvae, and you can see that there's a sequential sampling chart in the recommends available to help you make a treatment decision. So that's really the main players that I would recommend that you keep in mind right now. The others are really not as much of a concern this season just because of the coolness and the slowness of the season. So things like San Jose scale, rosy apple aphid, tarnished plant bug, they can all be active at this time. But this year they're generally not seeming to be as numerous, so it's probably not worth trying to treat for them right now. Similarly, for mites, the weather has not been favorable for development. But if you have a high pressure block, you could use an ovicide preventively, such as Apollo or Savvy or Zeal, or even going to petal fall, you could use Agramec. But these are the ones that I've mentioned this morning that I think are most worth your attention.